think we are live. It's always a question when we get on here. Well, maybe not.
It says we're live.
Okay, yeah, we are. It was just the Facebook page looked like it was still spinning. All right, so welcome everyone who's watching. Welcome to Heather. This is a a rare chance to get to chat because we're kind of on opposite ends of the city here. But yeah, so I'm Corey Walmsley. I'm the CEO of Aurora Borealis Publishing. And this is Heather Cherry, and she is one of my authors who published her book, I think it was last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. It's an amazing book, Marketing Your Ass Off, ass with the little dollar signs. And it's all about how to market your small business. So we've got a window open here, so if you hear a lot of noise, it's lovely stuff going by outside. I'm gonna let Heather introduce herself in just a second, but first I want to mention that if you are watching, make sure that you comment, you ask questions. This is your chance to pick Heather's brain and get her perspective on whatever questions you have about writing a book, becoming an author, walking in on Zoom meetings, all that kind of fun stuff. Hi, London. Not your turn today, baby. Okay. All right. You can have a seat or you can go back outside. Go ahead outside.
I don't have any socks.
Oh,
that's why
I'm in London's bedroom this morning, so she's coming in to get socks.
Oh, my
Always a surprise when you work
from
from
home.
home.
My mom painted a
We'll, we'll talk later. Thank you. Just reality of
Nice meeting you too.
the reality of working from home. So if you want to say hi to London and drop that in the comments. Otherwise, ask us questions. Make sure you let us know what you're thinking about, because Heather's here to answer your questions live today. And I'm going to pull this back up on Facebook so we can actually see what questions people have.
Okay.
So while I'm doing that, Heather, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody about what you do.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Heather Cherry, the author of Market Your Ass Off. I also work as a copywriter, and I do freelance writing in my own business called Heather Cherry Consulting. So I've been doing this now for like 13-ish years. I wrote Market Your Ass Off because I started in about 2019. I started working with a lot of small businesses doing marketing consulting, and I really just they all had similar questions and they didn't have big budgets. And I was like, how can I meet this need in a way that is, not time consuming for me, because it wasn't profitable for me to always be answering questions, but also help them, because my heart really is in just the small business that, the businesses we see on Main Street and the small restaurants and the mom and pop stores. And I was like, I'm going to write a book. And actually, I think Corey was like, you should write a book about that. And I was like, I don't want to write a book about that. But yeah, it was really fun. So I'm really glad with what we put together, because it's a guidebook. So it's really short and just kind of direct and to the point. But I feel like for the small business that really doesn't understand marketing or like where to begin, it's a great place to start. So.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. One of the things I really liked about the book was that it was palatable. It wasn't like, hey, here's this great big tome about every little thing you could possibly think of for marketing. It was like, really, hey, if you're starting out, if you've been in business a couple years, here are some simple things you can do. And something else I really loved about the book, Heather's tone in the book is just so friendly and fun and savvy that it makes it so easy to get through. So you're not in there like, oh my God, here's this person telling me what to do, and it just doesn't click. She's just very open and honest with you. So that was really something that I thought you did well in that book.
Thank you.
So
yeah, that was really what I wanted to achieve, because I just seen every time I talked to small businesses, they were just almost, they were afraid of marketing because it just felt so high level. And I'm like, no, it's not that. I mean, it's hard, but it doesn't have to be that hard. So
yeah, I think that's, across the board, when people find something new that they don't know what to do, didn't mean to rhyme that, but when you find something that you're like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I have no idea what to do. I think we get in our heads a lot and we make it complicated. And I know a lot of people do that with marketing. So it's nice to have something that is a quick, easy tool that you can just say, hey, here's this, here's my book, go through the book. It'll give you some really simple tips and you'll be able to get started. So how, let's start with this. How are you using the book in your business? Are you like giving that to clients? Are you using that kind of to attract people to you? How does it work?
I'm for a marketing person, I'm really bad at marketing myself. So that's a really good question. How am I using the book? I think it's really just I've been most often just referring people to it and just saying, and I have given out copies, just being like, here, I think you should start here. Because they come at me with a lot of questions, and I'm just like, you know what? Like you should decide on your own where to begin, and here you go. So I most recently referred a fellow author, or well, like he's trying to become an author, I guess you could say so. I said, you need to know, like he's indecisive, like, is he going to self-publish? Is he going to go for traditional publishing? And I'm like, one of those components of understanding which avenue, and really both, I guess, is knowing marketing. And he's like, what do you mean I have to know marketing? So I was like, well, you should probably check out my book. So it's kind of like you get that, surface level understanding of marketing and how it applies to your business. Because I was trying to explain to him that, writing a book of any, no matter how it's published, is a business. And he was like, mind was blown. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a business. So you gotta, most of the times you want to make money from the things you do. So
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to take all that time to work on something and then just go, oh, okay, well, I hope it works out.
yeah.
And, I'm glad that you told him that, because that is important. That's something that I think a lot of people just think you're going to be discovered, like, you put your book out there and then someone famous goes, ooh, this one right here. And then they all of a sudden send all the news cameras to your house or something. And it's not like that's not how it works at all. It's not like that for any type of business.
No,
Um, yeah,
definitely
and
not.
go ahead.
Oh no, no, I just was agreeing with you because that's so true. And I think, when I was very, very new to writing, I thought, oh, I'll just keep writing and I'll put my book out there and it's going to be great. And then I think when someone told me that publication is a business, I was like, what? No way. But it's so true. And I think it really just takes that like thought process to be like, okay. And then, and I think that, as authors, we may not be inclined to think about marketing. And I'm really excited to have this tool to be able to give somebody in that, space where they're kind of deciding what to do and how to approach it. So it's really a good starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's kind of rewind and talk about the actual process of writing your book. I know we had connected, I think, online, and then I always think this is a funny story. We were supposed to meet up at a Starbucks, and we both got there, and it was the kind that you can't go in.
Mhm.
So we ended up having to like drive down the street and find, I think it was like a Burger King we ended up at.
Yeah. It was.
But yeah, we sat there and we talked about writing. This is, of course, pre-COVID, so we just sat around and chatted. But after that talk, that's when you wrote your book. And tell me, because we didn't work together as like coach and client, we worked on it with the editing process
Mhm.
and beyond. So tell me a little bit about your process with writing your book.
Yeah. So writing this book, felt a lot easier, mostly because I've written two books before this, and I really got all those kinks out, like how to come at the project. So I came into this project kind of knowing, the structure of the book and what I needed to include. And I think the hardest part for me was just deciding, how to like pick and choose the pieces of marketing and only focus on the most relevant things. So that process really just came from understanding like my clients and the questions that they had. And then it also kind of mirrored my blog on my website. I was writing monthly posts about, social media or marketing or content marketing, things like that. So I was just kind of like, all these topics that I was writing about, how can I and it wasn't necessarily every topic, but it was kind of like a launching pad for the book's different chapters. And I was like, and I just knew that I didn't want it to be, I wanted each chapter to kind of live on its own. And then, so I had to structure that in a way that covered the topic of marketing in that chapter, but also make it cohesive. So it was just, it was kind of, when I kind of like broke it down that way, it was really quite easy to write it, because I thought if each chapter is kind of like a long form blog, right? Like, so one chapter might be about social media. So I just thought, how would I tell the story about social media if somebody was sitting in front of me? And that's probably why it became across so conversational, because that's kind of how I came at it. I was just, how can I explain this in a way that somebody that knows nothing about social media, or they might be on social media, but they don't really understand how that applies to their business. So, and I just kind of thought, like, where would I start and how would I go from there? And it was just, so it's kind of like my thought process, and hopefully that's efficient for others. But and then I just started, putting it together, and I kept telling myself, you got to write a chapter, you got to write a chapter. So it probably took me a lot longer than I had, than it should have, because I would get distracted, or I'd be like, I don't really need to write a book, or who's going to read this book if I write it, so it was all those things that I think other writers probably go through, the negative self-talk. So it was just, it took me probably like 8 months, I think, to write, which I feel like I could have wrote it in at least 4 months if I was really dedicated to it. But, so then I wrote it and I read through it, and then I reached out to Corey. But I guess before I reached out to Corey, I was actually contemplating traditionally publishing this book and pitching it around. And, because I was like, people need, I wanted it to reach a massive audience, because all the marketing books I read, they're just so, I don't know, they're just like so marketing speak, right? Like they don't really apply to that person. And I feel like they're more targeted towards that person in marketing that wants to be better. They're not for like a small business that really has no idea what they're doing. So I examined the traditional publishing route, and then I was like, this is crazy. I don't have, a million followers. Nobody's going to pick it up. So,
Yeah.
and plus I wanted it to be a timely thing. I wanted to get it out there because I saw this need for these small businesses that just needed assistance. And it was kind of like in that weird space. Like I was finishing it up, like right in the middle of COVID. So I was like, it's even more important now, that small businesses really understand all the tools available to them. So that kind of pushed me towards doing self-publishing too, because I was like, I need to get it in their hands and I don't want to wait. So, and then I kind of like, so I went back and forth a lot, but then when I finally landed with Corey, we got it going pretty quickly. So we got it to print, and that was exciting. And I was really glad to finally have made it to that point and really just took it home. And now I have something that I can give to people.
Yeah, I had forgotten that you did look into traditional publishing first. So I did want to talk about that for just a second,
Yeah.
because you talked about wanting to get it out there faster.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons to every type of publishing, and I don't ever tell somebody like, no, this isn't right for you. Make sure you do this. You have traditional, you have hybrid, you have self-publishing. There are others in between, and yada yada yada. There's so many options, and you do have to look at the right thing for you. And one of the things that you have to look at is control over the book, control over the timeline, all of that kind of stuff. So I always feel like self-publishing or hybrid publishing, which is what my company does now, I always feel like that speaks really well to somebody who is in a position that they want to have a book out by a certain date. They don't want to shop it around and take a lot of time to do that. But if someone wants to traditionally publish, if that's like, your big dream, absolutely go for it. Yeah, so I didn't want to sit here all morning with you because I know you're busy too. So as far as doors that the book has opened, has it led you to anything else that you've been thinking about? Has it given you connections that you wouldn't have had before? Any of that kind of stuff?
I would say so. I think I'm always a little more humble than I should be, because I'm not like so quick to be like, I wrote a book.
Yeah.
But I should be more like that. But I just think it really just solidifies for all the people that I talk to, whether it's about marketing or even just with my writing business, it just solidifies that my authority, I guess, in this space. And it's like, she wrote a book, so she must know what she's talking about. So, and I would like to think that I do, but yeah, so I would say it has definitely opened doors, and it's definitely a great conversation starter, I would say. So um I feel like if I marketed it more, I would definitely be able to build my brand. But unfortunately, I'm just like a slacker in that department, which is terrible to admit as a marketing writer. But it's so much harder when you're close to it. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know about this, or you just have all these ideas and you don't know where to begin. So I should
Yeah.
probably read my own book.
I think that's true for everybody, though. What's the old saying? The shoemaker's children go barefoot, or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, we always forget about our own stuff, so it totally makes sense. But if you're watching this right now, you absolutely should get a copy of this book because it is really a good book. There were things that, I had been in business, I think, 4 years at that point, and I was reading them, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I didn't know anything about that. Just little things that you forget about along the way, and it makes it a really good guide. And I did want to circle back to something you said earlier, where you're talking about how you wrote it, and you wrote each chapter like it was a blog. And I love thinking about stuff like that, because if you've written a blog, you can write a book. It makes it so much more doable if you're thinking about it bit by bit. You don't think, oh my gosh, I have to clean my whole house. And then you sit there staring at the whole house and let it keep collecting dust. You think, okay, well, I'm going to clean the bathroom first. And then the next day, I'm going to clean the toy room. And the next day, all right, I'm going to clean the office. And you go through it like that. So looking at a book the same way makes it so much easier. So I did
Yeah,
want to wrap
and
up. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, Corey. But with that, I did like put exercises too with the book. So not every chapter, but some chapters have like a QR code for like a downloadable resource. So that also kind of makes it, that it's like you practice what you preach. So you read about it and then you can kind of apply it too. So
Yeah, I love that. And we've been trying to use more QR codes in the books now, because it does make it really easy. I forget who it was that told me. Was that you that told me about that? It might have been.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. But it makes it really easy so people can, be actually reading the physical book and just mouse, is it mouse over? I don't know,
Yeah.
put your phone over it, and access resources and stuff. So oh, we do have a comment from Darlene. She says, I like the idea of approaching each chapter as a blog, would make it more manageable. Yes,
Yes. Yeah, and
absolutely.
I think that came from, professional development, when they say like when you're just overwhelmed with something, how can you kind of like reverse engineer it and work backwards? And for me, writing books, it completely overwhelms me. And it's not the word count. I think it's just like the longevity of it.
Mhm.
And, so I was like, how can I approach this in a manageable way? So yeah, it was really efficient. And one thing too, before we move on, I wanted to mention was the unexpected audience that my book has reached is college students. So my sister, who's not too far out of college, she actually studied business, but she minored in marketing. And she's like, this book is exactly the kind of thing that my professors would give me or share with us. And I was like, that's so cool, because they're kind of in that same space where they're kind of learning marketing and understanding all the different aspects of it. So it's also really good for any college student that might be, going into like studying business or, entrepreneurship or marketing. So
Yeah.
kind of let's put it all together.
Yeah, I think that's something that we don't always think about with our books. I'm actually working with a client who was in PR and on his book right now, and that's something we were talking about was, college students who just need something that's easy to read, that is, um, you know, something that they can just get through quickly, that's written conversationally. So, when you are marketing your books, make sure that you're thinking about these different audiences and who can this help, because the whole point of writing the book is to help a lot of people, right? So you want to make sure that it's reaching those people. So I did want to kind of wrap up. I don't see any other questions. So one last question for you, Heather. If somebody's thinking about a book and they're looking at it like, oh my God, this big thing, how am I going to do this? What kind of advice would you give them to start out?
Yeah, I would just say start somewhere. And that could be just mapping out your character profiles, if you're writing characters, or and just kind of start brainstorming, and don't think of the whole thing as a project, but think of it as like milestones. So maybe, set yourself goals like, I'm going to, map out my characters this week, and then next week I'm gonna, maybe brainstorm the first chapter or something like that. So however that process looks for you, but just kind of like I said earlier, reverse engineer it, chunk it down, and then what can you do today? And then just keep building on that. And I think that it will feel a lot more manageable. And I know that's like how me, when I come at any big project in life or work or in between, I think when I feel that overwhelm, I'm like, how can I break it down to something I can do right now, today, and then just keep working and reminding myself that every step is, getting me towards the end goal. So
That's really good advice. I like that. I like the idea of thinking of it as milestones too, and celebrating each milestone,
yes,
acknowledging
we
your
get
progress.
lost in that. So yeah.
Awesome. Can you hold up your book one more
Yeah.
time so everybody can see it? I don't think we showed the cover. Yes, market your ass off.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, everybody who is watching. Thank you, Heather. This was wonderful. I loved
Yes,
getting to
thank
share
you for
about your
having
book
me.
today. And we're going to post the link or actually go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your books, and then we'll post the links below too.
Okay. My book is on Amazon exclusively, but you can get to it because it's a gigantic long link. If you visit heathercherry.com and click books, it'll take you to it. So pretty easy.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
that's smart marketing too. Have it on your website.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you again. And if you have questions, if you're watching the replay, make sure you drop them below and we will hop back on and answer them.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Have a good day.